So hi to everyone who is watching and listening today. Welcome to my Culture Talks, a series of interviews with people from all over the world who share their stories and experiences living and doing business in different countries. My guest today is Ilkay, who I met at a LinkedIn event in Vienna last year, I believe, and whom I've been following on LinkedIn for a while now. Ilkay is an entrepreneur doing business mostly in Germany and Turkey, I think, but maybe he corrects me afterwards. And he's a B2B content creator. So thank you, Ilkay, for being my guest today.
What a pleasure. Thanks for your invitation, Martina.
Oh, you're most welcome. So with 22 plus years of executive experience in heavy industries, I'm sure you've seen a lot and have a lot of stories to share. But before we start, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, of course, sure. You've already touched base on my 22 years of experience in my professional life. And I can tell you that the majority of my professional career was in a typical 9-to-5 job as a sales director.
Mm-hmm.
That was until November 2015. And November 2015, I decided to become a freelance consultant coach and to fulfill my dream of being an independent person and working on my own success and career in the future.
Mm-hmm. So, and what exactly do you do and how do you help other people?
Yeah, I got actually three different kind of services. The first one is business development. And you've touched on that. In the business development, I got 2 or 3 clients where I'm penetrating the markets in Germany or expanding in new markets like in Turkey or the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Middle East, it's particularly I'm focusing on the oil-rich countries, oil and gas, I should say, countries,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm promoting and setting up sales channels for composite materials. These are fiber reinforced plastics or polymers, thermal insulation products. As you know, there are a lot of refineries, a lot of heavy industries that need thermal insulation and composite materials, and this is what I'm doing there. My second leg is working for or together with the European Commission on beneficiaries. These are innovative companies that got a grant from the European Commission's arm that is called European Agency for Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, the 𝐾𝐈𝐃. 𝐾𝐈𝐃 has a 80 billion euro heavy fund where they are supporting innovative companies in their innovation. You can imagine that I'm dealing here with technicians, with engineers and chemical engineers. They are fantastic people. They love their innovation. They are very technical minded or chemically minded. But they have, let's say, a weakness in the marketing, in the sales and business development side. And this is where they are calling me to coach these companies to bring their innovation on track, on the, let's say, implementation side on the market.
Mm-hmm.
And my third area of expertise is LinkedIn. We will probably discuss LinkedIn also later in my journey. What I'm doing here is I'm empowering founders of startup companies, entrepreneurs, and managing directors to use LinkedIn as a significant marketing and public relations channel for their offerings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it all sounds really interesting and very diverse, I would say, in terms of cultures and countries you travel to and people you're talking to.
Absolutely. What is basically the bracket overall is I'm helping companies to develop new markets. So, and the channel to develop new markets can be classical newsletter, personal selling, or digital social selling through LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. Well, we all know how important social media and LinkedIn has become over the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years.
Absolutely.
Mm. So from all that traveling, where do you actually come from? Where were you born?
So let's go back. My parents came to Germany from Turkey as migrants in the year 1970, and I was born in 1971 in Germany, in the small city called Kulmbach, that is in the northern part of Bavaria. Yeah, so Turkish background, born in Germany, and as you know, in Germany, you're getting the citizenship of your parents. That's the reason why I was born as a Turkish citizen on German territory. But
Okay.
in 1997, I have obtained the German citizenship, and since then have the German passport.
It's interesting how long it can take to get a passport and a citizenship.
Yeah, that was quite a process indeed. First of all, in Germany, you are required to have 8 years of residency in Germany. You have to provide that you are not in huge debt, that you can serve your debts, by the bank, that you have a job, that you have no criminal incidents going against you, and if you can prove that you are having 8 years of a Wild West, then you can apply for the German citizenship. The only issue is that the German government requires you to leave your old citizenship. In my case, I needed to go to the Consulate General of Turkey in Nuremberg, close to my home, and ask for leaving the Turkish citizenship, and that is the longer process to get exited from a citizenship rather than entering the German one. So the Germans were keeping reminding me, when are you out of the Turkish citizenship so we can award you with the German citizenship. And it took quite a while to get out of the Turkish citizenship and get into the new one, which of course also brings new sorts of feelings and emotions, because leaving the old citizenship that you have inherited from your parents is not an easy step. And that is certainly something that I know that many people struggle with. For me, I've changed my mindset. I just said, okay, I'm not losing my identity. I'm just switching documents. That's it.
Okay. I was going to ask actually if it was a hard step or very difficult step to leave that part behind and just take the citizenship and say, okay, yeah, I'm going to go for the German one. Or have you ever thought about not taking the German passport?
Let's put it this way. As a Turkish citizen in Germany, and although you have gone to school and you are fully integrated, I speak better German than I speak Turkish, for example. You still have a lot of inconveniences. One is, for example, every time you need to renew your passport, you need to go to the Turkish embassy and get a new passport. So that is inconvenient, because it's one day out of the office, out of your life, that you are just doing, bureaucracies. Secondly, with the Turkish citizenship, at that time, now we're talking 1995, 1997, where I started my career, and my career was always international. I needed to apply every time for every country. Almost every country. Schengen was already in place, so some countries were exempted for sure. But some countries, like we've discussed, Hungary, they required even a visa from me. And Czech Republic, which is only 50 kilometers away from my home here, even they wanted a visa from me. So that was actually a professional necessity for me to get the German passport as soon as is possible. And that was the reason why I left the Turkish citizenship to get the German citizenship, in order to be able to, move freely and pursue my job.
It makes sense. If you travel a lot for business reasons, then it's just not worth it. So
yeah, and I have to really say, and maybe that sounds really hard, but I have to say at that time, I don't know how it is today because it's very rarely that I need a visa right now. But at that time, I had to go to the General Embassy in Munich. That was even 2 or 3 hours away. I had to spend a full day in Berlin, depending on the country where I wanted to go, and it was just torture, torture, nothing else. I had I never understood why these people were so, strict on these rules. Now today it becomes a little easier with these e-visas. I had applied for an e-visa just last year for India, for example. That was a matter of minutes. I liked the Indian visa system where you could, get the visa just on the internet. I think that's the way every country should move, so as far as quickly as possible.
Well, I just know the visa process from the US, and you can easily do that online, but that's a tourist visa, so it's quite easy to get online. So maybe that's the same kind of system that India has today.
Very similar, very similar. The only exception is the US authorities. I think you are talking about ISTA, isn't it? The visa waiver program. No, India has a real e-visa, and that still requires you to fill in a form and to get some invitation letters and things like that. But once you got that all available, you fill in the form online, send it online, you get the decision online, and you print the paper. That's it. So you don't need to physically move around and visit Berlin, Munich, Frankfurt, wherever their embassy would be, and wait in a line in a queue. But okay, let's stop complaining about it.
Well, it's part of the culture, so it's a good starting point. making it more difficult for others to go somewhere. So that's you said, okay, you grew up, or your parents were Turkish or are Turkish. Did the culture play an important role when you grew up? Or how much of it was Turkish and how much of it was German?
Yeah, I would say, as it's probably anyone who has a double cultural life can relate to that. I always say I took both of the positive sides of these cultures. In the Turkish culture, for example, the people are warm, hospitable. Yeah. In the German culture, people are punctual, detailed, and structured. Probably not the best hosts, not the most friendly people. And in Turkey, again, most probably not the most structured and not the best engineering. So you can combine both worlds, and they are combined in myself.
Okay. So you actually really say you are a mix of both worlds?
I would say so, yes. Yeah. If people would ask me, are you more inclined to Turkish culture or German culture? I probably would have to admit that I'm probably more German in my culture because I was born, working in Germany here. More of a German culture, but still understand the Turkish culture. I can bridge it. I speak also Turkish, although my Turkish is not as good as my German. So yeah, I have both cultures, but I would say 60-40, 60% German, 40% Turkish.
So you took the punctual, the structured part from the Germans, and maybe the laid back and open person from Turkey?
Yeah, not the laid back, but the open and the warmth, let's say. Yeah, the heart, let's say, the hearted person.
Yeah, I like that. Did you travel a lot as a child? Did you travel back to Turkey?
As a child, I have to tell you that my father had no driver's license up until he was 35 or 36. And so we had to, whenever they wanted to fly back home to Turkey, or we had to do our yearly vacation in Turkey, we had to fly, of course. And I was flying already as a kid, so as a 4 or a 5-year-old kid. And I remember really the Boeing 707 from Nuremberg, Lufthansa to Istanbul. That was already a great, fantastic route. And then Turkish Airlines started taking the service to Istanbul with a non-stop flight. So I was flying a lot and traveling a lot, but always to Turkey and always to Bursa and always to the city where we have our flat, which, let's say, by time became a bit boring to me when I was in the age of a teenager, like 16, 17 years old, where I said, okay, Turkey has much more to offer than just, the city of Bursa and the street where we are every year. I want to explore other areas. So with the age of 17, 18, I told my parents, look, you can go there. You have a fantastic time with the family, because that was the other thing. We were just visiting families, and I couldn't see anything of the city as such. So I started to, taking a rental car and discovering Turkey. And while discovering Turkey, I have what I like so much is the Greek route, which is starting from, Bergama to Izmir, Ephesus. So these are fantastic places to visit. If you want to go into the ancient times of the Greeks, that is a fantastic route to go. And of course, but that I discovered later, is Cappadocia. I just discovered that just recently, let's say, where the Seljuks were and the old Turkish populations, the originals were coming from.
Yeah, I mean, you have, wherever you go, whatever country you visit, you have certain places that you usually, especially when you travel with your family, do not see. It's the same thing. My husband's family always went down to Croatia, and that's it for summer. They didn't see anything else. So I totally get it, what you mean about just seeing one place. And because you mentioned Cappadocia, we have also an event coming up about Cappadocia. So
nice.
It's a really nice area, a nice region.
Very nice. I was there just recently, as I said to you, and the only problem is in these caves that are into this sand. I don't know how you call that, that funny shape. These funnels that were reversed, right? But there are also the ones that are underground. They have underground cities. But because of my body shape, I'm a big man. I cannot go underground. That was too narrow for me to go and explore those sites.
Too narrow and too low as well?
Low, narrow, and of course the doors were small. So I thought I will be stuck inside if I go inside there. So I just went to the main rooms, and then went out again.
Better that way, I think.
Yeah.
Did the traveling somehow influence you when you were traveling as 17, 18-year-old young man?
Yeah, let's say these Turkish discoveries were not so much of an impact, rather than when I started, becoming a professional and started my career in international travel. This is what impacted me basically the most. And I would like to talk to you about my expert status, if not yet, maybe later on. We can see in the background there are some lions, and I ask you to change the Istanbul picture to these lions because I would like to talk with you about my period where I'd been to South Africa for a couple of months. So I was asked just shortly before 9/11, that was in August 2001, I was asked whether I would run at that time, at my 9-to-5 job, our subsidiary in Joburg, in Johannesburg, in the suburbs of Johannesburg. I mean, you have to know that no one really lives in Johannesburg city, because the crime is too high in the city. So everything is centered around the city. At that time, it was like this. I don't know whether it's still true today. Yeah, and I really enjoyed it, the South African journey. I went there for a couple of months as a managing director of our operation. but we had to close the operation down for several reasons. And what I found there, of course, you had in the operation itself, we had about 10 white and about 15 to 20 black people in the company. And if you ask me what was striking, the first thing that I came across was a new term that I never heard before of, and that was the previously disadvantaged population. So they don't call them the blacks, they call them the previously disadvantaged population. Now, I'm not sure whether the one is better than the other one, but this is how they term this. And of course, I've seen there is a huge difference in the working culture in the company there where I was working in Germany, in the working culture in South Africa. There was a strong power distance, between the leadership and the factory workers, which I tried to a little break up. And it was okay. We managed this. But even if we had, company celebrations, a barbecue outside the factory, the blacks would be together with the blacks and the white would be together with the white, which I found a bit odd because in Germany, I have not seen this. I mean, even if you have, in our factory, we had Turkish workers with Turkish origin. We had, Greeks, Italians, Germans. They would be mixed up. That would be not a table with Turks and table with Greeks. It was rather a mix that was more collegial. So that was something that I've seen is culturally a lot different. Of course, the South African mentality is very nice. The people are very careful in what they say, very thoughtful. A German would be a little straight. He would say his opinion straight away, and he would not really care much about your feelings about what he says. If he criticizes, he will criticize you. Even in a constructive way, it would come hard over. In South Africa, people would be taking very much care of how the tonality would be when criticizing someone or maybe talking about a delicate matter.
So they don't want to offend anyone.
Absolutely distanced. High empathy. High empathy. I would say, and very, very careful. Not to upset anyone.
Have you noticed anything else besides the power distance and the empathy?
Let's go a bit into the private mode. I mean, this is now the business mode where you are in a business office in the operations, let's say. Now, as an expat, I don't know whether you have been an expat, but as an expat, you are basically, for the purpose of a certain time, you are sent over to another country. And basically what it is, I was on my own there in Joburg. I had a nice cluster house with a maid, a garden boy, and all the luxury you can imagine that I never could afford here in Germany, for sure. That costs you pennies in South Africa. That's the beauty. The only problem is, and that was a huge problem to me as someone who lives here in Germany on the countryside, if I want to go and walk outside, I go and walk outside. I go in a forest and take some fresh air to refresh my mind, to balance myself, to become more mindful and back to work. In South Africa, you are always under a roof, whether it's your house, your home, whether it's your car, whether it's the shopping mall or the offices, always a room. I would call it, you are in a paradise. South Africa has such a nice nature. It's the most beautiful nature on earth, what I've seen so far. I've been to 60 countries so far in my travels, but South Africa has the most beautiful nature I have seen so far. In spring, it has trees unimaginable. I don't know the name of these trees, but they come in all sorts of different colors when they come out. So you have a paradise there, a paradise nature, but you are like in a golden cage because you are always protected somehow for security reasons. Because of high crime, you have to take care of yourself in a very sensitive way. You have to be very, very careful. Robberies, can take place anytime. People could, hold your car. They are gaming with car accidents, which are not real accidents. They just want to get you out of, and things like that. So you have to be very, very careful. And that caused me a bit of a frustration over time. The first 1 or 2 months is okay, but with the third or the fourth months, we call it in Germany Lagerkoller. Is a bit similar to what I'm experiencing right now with the lockdown here with the pandemic, this COVID.
Yes.
So you are not allowed to freely move. Yeah. It's not 100% identical, but it reminds me to that story. And I can tell you a nice story I had. So I was in these cluster houses. Cluster houses are basically conglomerates of houses. They are inside a wall. Yeah. And you have to pass a gate. You have to tell that you have an appointment with so-and-so to be able to pass through. Sometimes you had even to say a code word or a code you had to have in mind to enter that cluster houses. And when I came home from work, I always wanted to go outside, and I walked up. There was up the hill, maybe some 500 meters, 600 meters away, just a small shopping area where there was a supermarket, a boutique for clothing and a cafe. And I liked that. I thought, okay, in the evenings, I walked always up the hill and then down the hill. And that was after 3 or 4 days, one of these black guards, they had guards all over these places. He said, do you have a minute for me? And I said, of course, yeah. So he's a black guy, a guard. And he said, what you are doing is very dangerous. I said, what I'm doing? I'm just here and sitting here and drinking my coffee. He said, no, you can drink your coffee. That's fine. That's why I'm here, for your security. But I've observed you, he said, you are coming out of that cluster complex over there, walking up every night, every evening, 500, 600 meters here. You should drive with your car here. And I said, look, this is the problem. I don't want to drive with a car. I want to walk here. And he said, but that's dangerous because you may get a problem on the road. People could, stop you, and it could be life-threatening. And I said, really, I don't care anymore. If someone wants my money, he can have my money. I need my freedom, and I need to walk in the evening 500, 600 meters because I cannot stay at home or in the office all the time. So he was very nice to me, and he said, look, we make a deal. Let's at least agree on a certain time when you will come out of the cluster. I will stand here and watch you walking up, and then once you are here, I have peace of mind, he says, that nothing has happened to you. And when you walk back, I will also watch you walking home. I'm here for your security, he said. And I found that so heartful, that a foreign guard really respected me and my safety. Although he doesn't even know me, he knew that I was buying some, coffees there and supermarket groceries. But other than that, we had no relation. But he was really concerned about my safety. And I said, okay, if you can do that. So my time is from 6 to 7. Let's fix this time frame from 6 to 7. And he was always at 6 o'clock sharp, like a German. He was standing there waiting for me. And when I was here, I said, okay, I invite you for a coffee. He always refused the coffee because he said that would be not appropriate for him to take. But I convinced him to have at least a coffee for me for taking care of my security. So this is something that you don't have in Germany or in the wider European hemisphere. This is something you have in South Africa as an expat. And that, of course, impacts you. Yeah.
How did it impact you? Like when you came back, how was it for you? I mean, some people speak of a culture shock when they come back, when they come back home. Was it also something that you experienced?
I didn't have really a culture shock as such out of South Africa and out of these occurrences that were nice, inspirational, strange at times. Because I was traveling in so many different countries, shock didn't exist for me anymore. It was different, and I accepted it's different, and I accepted that this person was just concerned about security, and it's his responsibility to ensure the security of the entire area there. So that's his job. Fine, I accepted that. So that I cannot take home and say, this is how it works in South Africa, we should do it the same here, or things like that, because the context is different. Now I have to go back to the business, of course. The business now suddenly becomes, of course, different, because in South Africa, on my own, I had the power to decide. I had the power to create. I was fully, authorized, and I had the full trust of the owner of the company, to run the thing. And coming back into an organization, into the hierarchy, that was hard. That was pretty hard. And I think that I never recovered from that again. I always desired to be that free person that I was in South Africa. And probably that also brought me to decide in 2015 to become independent as an own entrepreneur.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I was going to ask you if that was one of the experiences that made you decide, to become self-employed.
Not consciously, Martina, but while we are talking about it, it becomes a little more conscious that this may have impacted my decision to become freelance.
I would assume so, yes. I mean, not that or at least not at that time when you decided, but now talking about it, or years after, people think, yeah, that might have influenced my decision. So yeah, I would say yes. But how many countries have you traveled to? 60 or even
about
more?
60, yeah, about 60, okay.
Yeah. Whenever you traveled somewhere, either for business or for private reasons, did you prepare yourself?
Okay. What I'm preparing myself is, you may now find this funny, but I have on my smartphone, I have Microsoft 365, Office 365 on it, and there is an app called OneNote, where you can make notes. Yeah, I mean, Apple people have probably their own note-making app. I use OneNote. So you will find a file there that is called languages. And whenever I travel into a foreign country, I have a look whether I have that language already in. Right now it's English, Italian, Arabic, Bulgarian, things like that. And I always try to look up some words that I can use, like thank you, good morning, how are you, please drive to the right, please drive to the left, to the taxi driver, so I can rudimentary explain myself what I want to do. Because a lot of times I'm traveling to a foreign country to tour. I'm not picked up by a certain customer and by the airport, brought to the hotel and brought back. What I'm doing is I'm renting a car from Avis or Sixt or whoever is has an affiliate there. I'm renting the car and I'm driving from place to place. So or if I'm traveling around by the plane and I don't rent a car, then I'm using a driver. That is, for example, in the Middle East, a very viable option. It's not so expensive. And having a driver, and sometimes they don't speak much English, so it could be desirable, to let him understand that, I need to go to a certain place, and then the driver is sometimes not very iterate on the places, so I'm looking at the Google Maps and I'm directing him, for example, please drive right, please drive left, so we be on time to my meeting. That's my German mentality, be on time. I mean, the drivers, they don't care, because they say, who cares if you are 30 minutes late? But yes, I care. Yeah. So that's one thing that I'm preparing. Other things are over the years accumulated experience. Like, for example, in Saudi Arabia, if you are invited to a home,
Mhm.
please be prepared that you take off your shoes, that you don't show your shoes bottom to someone, because that's an affront.
Mhm.
Then you will not give your hand to the wife of the person inviting you. You don't bring flowers to her, obviously. So things like that, I think, are common sense, but always good to be reminded once you are going in certain places of this earth. Yeah.
I think that some people don't know, and that's where I sometimes come in, because when they prepare themselves for going overseas or to Arabic countries, or it could be even Germany or the US or England, that you prepare yourself for things like that, that you don't greet the wife, which is kind of something that we do in Austria and in Germany the same way. It's usually the wife first and then the husband, and not the other way around. So it's good to know who to greet and how to greet and what kind of presents you bring
Yeah. Yeah.
when you are
Absolutely.
invited. When you think of all the countries you've been to, where was it the most, for you personally, the most difficult one to adapt?
Oh, to be honest, none really. I can
Mhm.
adapt to any context. Um, I've been to Saudi Arabia, which is a really particular culture.
Mhm.
Um, but I was also in India, which was very refreshing.
Mhm.
And in India, I mean, everything looks chaotic in Mumbai, but believe it or not, I found a structure on the roads. Um, it appears chaotic for us, but through traveling, I see there is a system there, and there is an order there. It's not as chaotic as it looks like.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So what I also do is, but when I'm in the country, I'm trying also to dive into the culture of the country. For example, in India, I didn't know what mango lassi is before, to be honest. Now I'm 47 years old, going to India, and I had some, my stomach was a bit upset, and I was in the Hilton in Mumbai, and they're so nice, these people. And I said, "Can we do something good for you?" And I said, "Look, I'm a bit upset in my stomach. Do you have something that can relax it? I'm from
Mhm.
Germany, and probably I took some spices that upset my stomach." And they said, "Yeah, we know that. That's no problem." So he brought me several. Smoothie types and mango lassi, and it
Mhm.
was so tasty. So I started then to write down these things, and my son-in-law, I sent him with WhatsApp the list, and I said, "You prepare this for me," because he has a restaurant and he likes Indian food. I said, "You need to prepare this for me next time I come to the restaurant." And he knew everything, but he said to me, "Half of the spices that are required for these meals, we don't have them in Germany."
So
So
you
if
have
you
to bring them.
exactly, if you find some time, bring those herbs, and I will make it for you.
Yeah.
um yeah. This is how we did it. But the funny thing was that out of this purchase list, I think I
Mhm.
struggled even in India to find every herb. So the hotel had more access to the herbs than the general market.
We have a restaurant. We have two restaurants here in Vienna that have the mango lassi. But I have to be honest, before I met my husband, I didn't know about that one either. So that was also new to me.
Now, but now you can buy it in Aldi, I think, even in the supermarkets. I never realized it. Now I realize mango lassi is actually a yogurt drink with mango inside, just mashed up. It's not a scientific food. It's just yogurt, water, and mango, and it's in the refrigerator in the supermarkets. But I had to go to India to be convinced of mango lassi, and the lassis are actually in very different fruits they come. Yeah.
Mhm. All right. So in terms of business and taboos and manners, have you noticed any differences? Now I'm coming back to your roots a little bit, between Germany and Turkey. What do I need to be careful about when I do business with a Turkish company?
There's not, let's say, in my sector, which is heavy industries and B2B, automotive and so, we have in B2B, the general rule is there's not much culture difference in B2B, particularly the OEM industry, the automotive industry that works with the IATF 16949, that is a quality management framework. Any company that is supplying automakers, they have to comply with these norms. And because they have to comply with these norms, the language, the culture, mentality is harmonized by the norm, believe it or not. What is probably different is the kind of project work and the pre-chat and the after-chat, the small talk, the social gatherings. These may be different, but the topics, the norms, the standards which have to be fulfilled, the product life cycle, starting with ramp up, SOP, the APQP, they're all the same. So I'm not seeing a difference there. And regarding taboo, one of my general rules is I never discuss religion, I never discuss sex, and I never discuss politics. Even though that some try to, open these matters during, for example, a lunch or a dinner, I never really comment on it. If they don't find Erdogan a nice person, then they don't find him a nice person. If they like him, then they like him. I really don't care. What I'm focused on in business is my business and the outcome and the way I can help to the company in that concrete context. Because the problem is, if you come into religion, there is a wide understanding of religious practices. If you can't come to politics, there's a wide angle of interpretations of the political practices, and sex is an intimate thing. So this is the reason why I'm not talking about this. So what can you talk about then? Otherwise, what I found interesting is football. Sports in general is a great discussion point. Certainly cultural things like museums, the hotspots, points of interest in a city. The infrastructure of a city is always a nice thing to do, to talk about. The London Tube, the Paris Tube, the Istanbul Tube, which is not really connected. Yeah, these are things that you can easily discuss because everyone is in agreement on that. Even tickets for speeding are good matters to talk about. So there are so many things you can talk about that you don't really need to touch on the other three.
I would agree. I think the small talk should revolve around things like museums, cultures, traditions, maybe, and showing interest in the culture and the person that is sitting in front of you, and not so much discussing the political issues and the religion itself. Yeah, makes sense. And in back to the project work, the use of time, is that different?
Again, since I'm in automotive and oil and gas industries and the heavy industries, the meetings, the project work is more or less on the norms. So if we have a Gantt chart and we have milestones to reach because the model has to come out in 2 years' time, then you have a reversed timetable, then everyone has to stick to the timetable. There's no discussion about it. And if we meet for a project, then we are discussing the timetable and how we can realize it. There's no much discussion about it. If we are talking agile, is the same. Agile is around the world, the same understanding. Okay, the practice is maybe a little different, but again, it's because of the project is different and not the people are different. So in that case, I cannot really give you an answer. The only thing that may be in a way or in a favor, maybe the Hofstede's culture dimensions, and that has to do with the power distance. Yeah, the more distance there is, you have to know as a boss, as a leader, in a country like in South Africa, that once there is a high power distance, that you have to take yourself as a manager and leader a little out, because people otherwise will not work freely and contribute freely. This is probably one thing that may come different. But leaders, managers that are iterate, they know this.
I hope so.
Yeah.
If they do business internationally, I think they should have read about it or just informed themselves about things like the use of time, or Hofstede maybe doesn't ring a bell for some people, but the power distance does. So they should know, the leaders, and the managers.
I mean, Hofstede is more than the power distance. It's, for example, also the masculine and the feminism. I mean, this is one thing you know probably. I have a legendary group in LinkedIn that is called 𝐾𝐈𝐃 𝐾𝐻, and in the beginning, so in 𝐾𝐈𝐃 we have a lot of like-minded people that believe this video we can heighten our business success. And I'm a heavy promoter of that, of course. But in the beginning, when I started this in November last year, 2019, only 1/3 of the content creators on LinkedIn were female. So 2/3 were male. And I started then to reflect on this. Why is this that we have more men on content creation than women? So by time, I have changed this, at least in the German-speaking countries. And I would say right now we are fairly in balance, 50-50. We had even a 𝐾𝐈𝐃 bar camp where we had even nearly 60% sessions run by ladies and only 40% run by men, which shows if you're taking culture seriously and you look at the effects of culture, you can reverse also these cultures.
I've seen all of them. I mean, the bar camp, I was not participating, but I saw the change in the content creators, and a lot of women are doing videos now and trying new things and building their own groups. So I think the 𝐾 group was a big start, for a lot of people.
Thank you for creating content here. Role model.
I will do my best, to keep going and keep growing.
We support you.
One last question, maybe. Did you at any point notice any stereotypes towards you when you were traveling?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
But they were always with a smile and always with blinzeln. In Holland, Netherlands, and the UK. And that is historic because the Dutch and the British, they have a problem sometimes with the Germans. And when I came from Germany, exporting, but it was more fun, really fun. I mean, they just reflected on me, and I'm really grateful and thankful for them to highlighting this, because that awareness is sometimes not there. That gave me the assurance to be careful once you are coming over as a German, that you are coming over as a friendly, freedom-liking German.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think that the stereotypes, or to think about the stereotypes before you travel somewhere, helps actually a little bit. Yeah, because I remember when I was traveling the first time to Paris, I had certain stereotypes towards French people, and I think they also had stereotypes towards German speaking in general people. So I saw even their reaction sometimes when I said, okay, where I come from, and when they heard me speak German. So it wasn't in a bad way, but I felt it, definitely. Any tips that you would give someone doing business internationally?
Okay, it's so much tacit knowledge I'm having, so internal that it's very difficult to grab it out. I would say one thing you need to learn is English language, because English is very, very common in nearly every country of this world. Yeah, in the business world, I don't think German and French is any more significant. It may be, but in the 90% of the time, English is the language to go. Then what I would suggest is download an app. I need to look at what the app is called. Währungsrechner from Oanda. Yeah, Oanda, a currency converter. That can really help you save a lot of money, because if you convert in the wrong way, then you are losing a lot of money. Now imagine you are going to Kuwait or Bahrain, where your euro is, like 20 Kuwaiti cent or something like that. And if you reverse it and you pay something like 4 Kuwaiti dinar for something, multiply it by 4, then you have paid 16 for something. And that's can be very, very difficult. So 4 Kuwaiti dinar is not cheap for a coffee. Because it's 16 euros. And it can happen that you are in shopping malls where the coffee is 4 dinar. Now, I'm not saying that you should not enjoy coffee in a Kuwaiti shopping mall, but maybe instead of enjoying 5, maybe 1 is enough. Just the economical impact on your purse when you are traveling on business or on your own, to protect you from losing a lot of money. Because that happened to me, to be honest, when I came back and I did my expenses. Then I saw, oh God, the spendings I had in Bahrain and Kuwait, they were out of reach. I would advise, of course, to make yourself a bit acquainted with these commonalities. Yeah.
Anything else that you want to add?
Outside of culture, we are talking in midst of a pandemic where travel is restricted. Now, the European Union has lifted, apparently, the travel inside the European Union. You can come from 14 countries only from the whole world to the European Union. And what I would like to really recommend everyone is, just be mindful. Don't stress yourself. Don't get depressive. Stay alert. You have a nice world to discover. Once this is over, I think we have all means to meet again.
Well, thank you, Ilkay, so much for taking the time today and sharing your story and experiences traveling around the world as an expat and as a businessman. It was a real pleasure having you on the show.
You're welcome.
So thank you all out there for watching today. To all the team leaders and business owners and people interested in other cultures, if you are leading an international team and would like to improve the cross-cultural communication within your company or your team, or if you're traveling just like Ilkay a lot for business and would get culturally fit for meetings and negotiations abroad, and want to avoid making huge cultural mistakes or any other kind of mistakes, then please schedule a free strategy call and let's talk. And if you like what you hear, follow my Culture Talks on YouTube and share it with others. So talk soon.